Hello, and welcome to today's presentation, From Chaos to Cash Flow. My name is Sarah Justin. I'm the owner and founder of Rêve CFO Advisors, and today's presentation is for you, small law firm owners who are looking to regain control of your operations, improve cash flow without burning out. So today, we'll have a brief introduction, and I want to dig in and jump into three high-impact priorities for your firm, three areas that you can immediately evaluate and address to begin improving cash flow in your organization. And then we'll talk about how that alignment can be created and some real-life applications so that you could get started immediately and see some improvements. And we'll also talk about next steps if you want to continue today's conversation. A little bit about myself. I am the founder of Rêve CFO Advisors. We are fractional CFOs that help small law firm owners to escape financial chaos of running their practice. So through our services, we provide those owners with clarity, forecasting, operational guidance, everything they need to make confident decisions that are built on a foundation of understanding their numbers, understanding what's working and not working in their business, and what to do about it, and how to build a firm foundation for the future, so that they can obtain sustainable cash flow and run a business that really serves their goals in their life. I have been a licensed CPA for almost 20 years now, and I've also been an entrepreneur, just like you. As a firm owner, I have been an entrepreneur running a service business, which I founded and sold after a number of years. And I've also been a corporate finance leader as well, driving financial strategy at a number of private companies. I've incorporated my financial acumen with real life operational experiences, and I love working with firm owners. So I'm happy to be with you here today. Now, I want to start by addressing what I call a clarity problem. In this picture, you'll see that these folks have been blindfolded and tasked with identifying what stands before them. Now, depending on where they're positioned and what they have access to, they all reach different conclusions. The gentleman in the front, because he's feeling the trunk, thinks that perhaps the roughness of it gives him an indicator that maybe this is a tree trunk. The woman on the side, the sturdiness of the side of the elephant, she thinks, this might be a brick wall. This is pretty solid and large. And the gentleman on the back who's touching the tail may think this is some sort of rope or twine. Now, each of them is touching the same thing. They're touching an elephant in essence, but they don't have the context. They don't have, without the full picture and the clarity, they don't understand the entirety of what stands before them. And this is really a great analogy for what many firm owners feel. They may be laser focused on billable hours or revenue growth typically. And I hear this from a lot of my clients. I feel busy. It feels better than last year. It feels better than last quarter. We must be doing something right. But really, that feel might just be, they might just be looking at the trunk or might just be looking at the side of the elephant, but they're not looking at the entirety of the elephant, meaning the entirety of their firm, what's truly going on. And that busyness sometimes hides problem. Even if the phone is ringing and billable hours are happening, the cash may not be keeping up. And you may not realize as much cash at the end of the month as you thought you felt you should have had based on the busyness. And we'll get into some of the reasons why that happens. But it's really this clarity problem of not being able to see the whole picture of everything that's flowing in and out of your firm and everything that's going on and how it all works together, maybe how it doesn't work together and is creating chaos that's having a negative financial result on your operations. And that's when that shrinking profitability creeps up. As I said, that tight cash flow keeps occurring at the end of every month, and you keep wondering to yourself, why? I feel like I'm doing better this month. I feel like we're heading in the right direction, and yet I'm still feeling that pinch. So we're going to talk about how you can turn your firm into that money-making machine so that things are running like a machine, and you clear the chaos and you see it and realize it through consistent positive cash flow growth. Before we start talking about those three high impact areas, let's make sure we all have the same definition here. So when I define financial health, first of all, I'll mention revenue. Now, revenue is the services that you sell. That's the income that you're earning from the professional legal services you are selling. Profit, that is the services you sell less the expenses, all of the expenses, both overhead expenses required to deliver those services. Now, cash flow is what you keep. And this is where the real confusion comes from for a lot of firm owners, because they look and they look at their income statement every month and they say, it shows I have positive profit. And yet, at the end of the month, a lot of times there's that crunch of we just don't have enough of it to cover payroll or for the owners to take out the draws that they want, that they need to support their lifestyle. And so we'll get into how you keep more of this and some things that impact that cash flow. Okay, so the 3 high impact priorities for your firm that we're going to dive into today. First is intake and conversion. That's how work actually gets into the firm. And then we'll talk about the second is roles and responsibilities. Who does what and why? And lastly, we'll talk about getting paid, the most important of them all, knowing early and not chasing late. And these come directly from that I see every day with business owners. And so I hope you'll benefit from some of the insight that I'm going to share today. And if you really want to dig in more, these are just 3 areas that I'm covering today. But on my website, I have a resource, things that you can download, and it's called the 15 parts of your law firm that drive revenue, profit, and cash flow. And it'll dig much deeper into not only these 3 areas, but even more specific. So if you want more of this, please head to my website, go to the resource and events section and download that. 15 parts of your law firm that drive revenue, profit, and cash flow. Okay, so when we talk about intake and conversion, this is going to be at the top of that financial equation. This impacts revenue. A lot of people talk about, I want to have a 7-8 figure firm. They just think about that top line, but there are many, many ways to drive that number. It's not just getting new leads that drive revenue. There are many different levers you can pull to drive revenue. So let's dive deeper into that revenue formula. Yes, more leads can help you to increase revenue. But if you're not converting those leads, if those are the wrong leads, if people are calling your firm constantly, but for a service or an area of law practice that you don't offer, then that lead is worthless to you. So you want to make sure that if you're paying for marketing services, if you're paying for marketing campaigns, that they are targeting the exact leads that you want to target, the areas of your firm that you want to grow, the areas where you are the premier expert, and you want to make sure they're very particular in targeting those leads. Now, when those leads come in, I mentioned conversion rate. That's what percentage of people that know about your firm, that reach out to you, actually become paying clients. So if you're paying a lot of money and getting great leads, but you are then not converting those leads, your conversion rate is less than 50%, then something's broken in your underlying system. Maybe it's delayed follow-up. Maybe it's inconsistent follow-up, that if that call gets taken by one particular attorney, they are great about following up and closing the sale and bringing that client in. But if it happens to hit another attorney, maybe they don't know what to say to even sell their services. And so as a result, they're not converting any of those potential clients. And so you want to really dig into what is your process behind intake of new work, of new potential leads. How consistent are you? Is it if someone texts your firm, calls your firm, walks in the door, emails your firm, are they getting the same timely turnaround response? Does it look and feel the same regardless of how they approach you, and the rapidity with which they can be brought in and book that first appointment or whatever is required in order to really make the sale and bring them in as a new client and be engaged as their trusted legal advisor? So you really want to delve into that process and make sure you're building a consistent process, because conversion rate is where you see a lot of that breakdown. Now, let's say you've got a great conversion rate, you've got a lot of quality leads coming in, you've got lots of new clients. You could still be losing opportunities because your retention rate might be low. So I know there are many, many different areas of law, and some are very high touch and repeated frequencies. Your existing clients, if you offer multiple areas, you practice multiple areas of law, and you're not looking at your existing clients and really building that trusted relationship so that they come to you for these other aspects, then you're losing out on retaining those clients and further expanding your revenue. And that also ties into matter frequency. So if those clients are not coming to you, say that, it's a high net worth individual, they're coming to you, they own multiple businesses and property, and they're coming to you for an estate plan, but you're not making them aware of the fact that you're great at real estate law and you can help them with all of their property and real estate, that you're great at business law and you can help them be their trusted business attorney as well. If you're not making them aware of those services and getting to know and ask about other aspects of their world so that they really see you as that trusted advisor, then you're losing out on that matter frequency and you could be having them come back as repeat clients. And lastly, a really great way to increase your revenue is your average matter value. So on a regular basis, you should be looking at, what is my average matter value, not only by different types of services or areas of practice, but also across the entire firm, to think about which types of practice you're pushing. Maybe things are more lucrative for you if you have not only the estate planning, but if you also have probate matters and things that are a lot more complicated, you really have a better margin there. Maybe you have a lot more revenue growth there. Are you pushing that in your marketing so that you're growing that average matter value by really pushing for more leads in that higher value service? So you want to think kind of about your full service offerings and making sure that you're regularly increasing those rates on an annual basis at least, and that you're also understanding where your highest value comes from and if you're taking full advantage of that. So think of these all as different layers that you can pull to drive more revenue. It's not always just leads and marketing, because if you talk to marketing professionals, that's all they're going to talk about is leads. But all these other components underneath, conversion rate and frequency rate and average matter value and retention rate, all play into that growing revenue. The main takeaways I want you to have from this discussion about revenue is really that when it comes to intake and conversion, not all leads are created equal. Volume alone does not drive revenue. And small improvements in conversion can really impact your bottom line in a material way. So operationally, what we tend to see if intake is not intentionally designed, it's usually here's some symptoms of it. There's no clear understanding of where leads are coming from. Calls, texts, emails, everything's handled differently. Follow-up depends on the memory of whoever happened to take the note or make the initial contact. And then attorneys are spending time on the wrong conversations. So if they're tracking the time that they spend on those intake conversations, it's not leading to conversion. So they're spending time on those wrong conversations. And cheap leads sometimes turn into expensive distractions. I've seen a firm where when I ask them, what does it look like when somebody calls your firm or sends an inquiry email? They say, well, depending on who gets it, they throw it on a shared calendar. And eventually, if the attorneys have time, one of the attorneys will jump in, take a look at the calendar and say, what's on here for today? Maybe I'll pick this one up or that one up. And the attorneys will reach out and book an intake call. So I asked the question, well, how often do the attorneys do that? Who's responsible for what? Who makes sure that every single call or email or inquiry is picked up? And the answer was no one. There's no control around making sure that that process is complete, making sure that it's followed through. So if you hit a season where all of your attorneys are busy, then most of those leads who call in might not hear from you for a couple of days. And guaranteed they're going to start calling other attorneys. If they don't even hear back from you, they're going to take that as an indication of what it looks like to work with you, that you are not their priority. It's very important that you have a very consistent response and process. When you go about trying to fix this process, don't start by asking, well, what do we try next? What haven't we done yet? Start asking, what do we actually want? What do we want this to look like and feel like? What do we want our reputation to be when we interact with anyone, whether or not they become a client? We interact with any lead, anyone who touches our firm. What do we really want that to look like? What do we want it to feel like internally? We want to feel satisfied that no one has fallen through the cracks, that everyone is well cared for. So think about that first, and then start thinking about what will it take to get there. So when doing this, you need to clearly define, what is my ideal client, my ideal case? What are the best clients that I've got? And what does that profile look like? How do we reach them, and who handles that first contact when someone does come into contact with our firm? What gets filtered before any attorney even touches a potential client lead? And lastly, is there one clear intake path that everyone follows? A lot of firms, it ends up being siloed based on attorney and how they like to funnel their leads. But then it has a varied reputation for the firm, depending on who that attorney is. So, is there one clear intake path so that all the support staff know that regardless of how these leads come into the firm, this is how we're going to deal with it with consistency and quality? I want to move on to roles and responsibilities. So, this area of improvement within your firm really hits on profit. Profit is the services you sell less your expenses. And I will say that the number one issue for my clients when I talk to them, if they're concerned at all about profitability or shrinking profitability, it's really constraints in payroll costs and all the things surrounding the people in their firm. But you are a professional service provider, so you cannot exist without people. And rather than think of payroll as a cost, as an expense, think of it as a profit driver because it reflects how well your firm is structured. Just by looking at an initial prospective client and looking at the percentage of their revenue that is spent on payroll, it's an early indicator to me of how well their firm is structured and how efficiently they're operating. Because when payroll and the people that are on your payroll, when that payroll is properly aligned, the people become your greatest path to profitability. And if you have misalignment and those individuals are not being used to the fullest extent possible in an optimal way, misalignment starts to show up as pressure and burnout. A couple areas of the people equation where there is now more levers than ever before that you could potentially pull to impact your payroll. There are now many freelance paralegals that you could find the right fit if you're a solo firm or a very small firm, or you have a lot of seasonal work, or you like to run your firm where you like to spend a few months out of the year, largely on vacation and with your family. And so you like to lighten up your caseload during those certain times of year, then freelance paralegals may be a great fit for you. Other ways to think about payroll costs are considering who really needs to be a salaried employee, who could be an hourly employee that enables you to increase or decrease their hours or change with the volume or the seasonality of your business. And another area where you have flexibility and you could consider different options are in the bonus compensation structure. So really incentivizing what matters. If you're in a high growth stage where you're constantly adding attorneys and you want to boost those billable hours or expand a new practice area and you just need it to grow as fast as possible, then maybe you want to incentivize not only those billable hours, but also collections and business development activities, incentivizing your attorneys for bringing in new work. If your goal is succession planning, you're maybe towards the end of your firm ownership career and you're starting to think about, I want this firm to exist even after I retire. Are you incentivizing folks to start taking that ownership mentality, to step up to that next rung of leadership and incentivizing them based on activities they take that support a leadership mindset, managing other professionals and the productivity of those professionals, developing their other skill sets so that they are qualified to take over management of your firm? Are you incentivizing these other softer skills and these growth and leadership skills, not just client service and billable hours and revenue? So different, again, levers you can pull when thinking about the compensation structures and the payroll costs that work best for your firm to help you optimize it. Now, when firm owners say they really struggle with the people side of their business or managing employees or keeping everyone motivated, oftentimes the real bottleneck at small firms, it's rarely that you have bad people or that they're a bad fit, but you often just have high value people who are doing low value work, and that broods frustration. You have maybe the same tasks that are reinvented over and over again. I've seen this firsthand at several firms where there's just such a frustration from the staff because they want to step up and they see things that need to be improved and they try to offer solutions, and leadership just does not back them up in fixing it. And so they're frustrated and they they stop trying, quite frankly. So those same tasks having been done over and over can just exhaust people. Another situation is that attorneys become the bottleneck for decisions, and so the support staff they know that they're going to have to wait for an attorney to weigh in on something, weigh in on approval, even at the lowest level. And finally, everyone in the firm can be busy, and yet no one owns the actual process that everyone is busy doing. No one is responsible for the results of what's been tasked to the group. And as a result, everyone does what they think they should be doing, but no one is really driving it and ultimately responsible for the process. And that's quite often why these same tasks keep getting reinvented over and over again, because no one is responsible for finally fixing it, improving it, and consistently applying it and holding everyone to that. So the fix in these situations where people are performing at the level that you expect and are productive and profitable, you have to clearly define what every role must do every day, no matter what. And then what work should never land on an attorney's desk, so that the support staff knows the processes that they own, that they are responsible for, and they are empowered to do that without, as I mentioned, making the attorney the bottleneck. And lastly, clearly defining what keeps the business healthy, not just alive. This is really key, because your people are going to get burned out if they're always putting out fires, if they're always in a moment of chaos and just addressing the immediate emergency. If you're not building this system by making sure that everyone understands what they should be doing and is consistently doing it. If you're not building that consistent system, then your organization is just barely keeping alive on a regular basis. So when roles are clear, the work is flowing, the handoffs are consistent, the burnout drops, and the profit improves without cutting headcount, because now your people are doing what they do best. They understand what they are responsible for, what others are responsible for, and they hold each other accountable, and they work together as a cohesive team. So then when you layer technology on top of that, it becomes a force multiplier for the staff, not a replacement for them. There's a lot of talk about operational efficiencies and AI, but we still need people. We are in a professional service industry. As a law firm, you will always need people. And so now, once you get those roles and responsibilities set up and those processes structured, and everybody knows what their job is and what they're doing and how best they can do it, then you can layer on technological improvements and resources to make everyone more productive and be that force multiplier. Just to recap here, we talked about on the revenue side, intake and conversion. On the profitability side, payroll costs and your people, the roles and responsibilities that are going to really optimize that payroll cost and give you the greatest profitability. And lastly, I want to talk about cash flow. And the biggest driver of cash flow is really getting paid, collections. And this is something that every law firm struggles with. So this is what you keep. And this is the key area of confusion between all business owners of when you have positive profit but negative cash flow. A lot of times it comes down to delayed payments, delayed collections. 73% of law firms have accounts receivable aging beyond 90 days. So that's the bulk of law firms. And if receivables go beyond 90 days, the likelihood of them being collected goes down. Your write-offs increase, and that money slips through your fingers. It starts slipping through your fingers, so that you build all of your work, but now you may not get paid for all of it. You'll be lucky if you get paid some of it and collect some of those invoices. And solo small firms often see realization rates around 86%. So realization is the work you bill versus the work you actually do. So say you spend 100 hours on a particular matter. On average, solo and small firms are actually billing for only 86 of those 100 hours. And that's because you rationalize maybe, oh, I'll cut my client a break, or, oh, that seems like a lot. Did I really need to spend that much time? But if you have multiple timekeepers in your firm, And all of them are doing that. All of them are rationalizing that and kind of trimming their hours or reducing their hours. Before you know it, that 14% that you're cutting out is a significant, significant number. And so I want you to think about these two things as we talk about collections and also billing. Visibility and timing. This is what it comes down to, because cash flow problems don't start when an invoice is 90 days past due. That's not when it starts. It starts upstream. It starts when you begin that client engagement and you enter into that agreement with your client. And the terms of payment are clearly identified that we are going to bill you monthly. And the expectation is payable upon receipt. If you don't emphasize that and then offer convenient ways of paying and make sure that you're reminding them when they have not held up on their end of the bargain, or also if you are not billing on a timely basis, so maybe your billing is a month, 2 months behind, that's also not holding up your end of the bargain of timely billing of those hours that you've so far committed to that client and that they will need to pay you for. So both sides need to hold up their agreement and make sure that they are doing what they have committed to do. And ways that you can prevent this delayed payment are by offering convenient payment options so that your client doesn't have to wait a whole 30 days till they get the invoice, a month past due, and then it says, please mail us a check, and they have to mail you a check back to your office. That might be another 15 to 20 days before they finally write that check, drop it in the mail, it gets to you, and then you deposit it in your bank another 3 days before that check settles. So by offering convenient payment options, emailing those invoices out, having a payment link right there and saying, this is payable upon receipt, and here's how you can pay it. As soon as you open this invoice, hit this payment link, credit card, debit card, we accept it, or check, we accept different forms of payment, then you're giving them those options and the likelihood of payment is much higher. Also, ways to prevent delayed payments is, as I mentioned, on that client intake process, making sure you emphasize, hey, we bill 15 days after every month end, or sometimes the best firms bill weekly. And this is the frequency you're going to get a bill from us. And this is the payment expectation. Here's the payment terms clearly defined. And, we will remind you if you violate those payment terms, we will be following up for payment. And so that your clients know to expect to hear from you and they know that payment matters and you're establishing that expectation. Too frequently, I see firms that don't follow up for payment until they fall on that 90-day plus list, until they're 120 days outstanding. And then they say, okay, now I better start making some calls. And if that's the first time your client hears from you that you want to receive payment is 90 days after they got that invoice, they've already been trained that it's not important to you. There's been no penalty for the delayed payment. Nobody's even bothered to call them up until now. And so they'll get to it when they get to it. And they will continue to disrespect your agreed upon arrangement and not pay you timely. Also, a lot of times firms focus on the billable hours, but not on the collections. As I said before, taking it back to the idea of the incentive compensation. Some firms only incentivize their attorneys based on those billable hours, but not on those collections. And so they're now paying out attorney bonuses based on what they billed. But if those attorneys are not establishing these expectations with their clients that they need to be paying timely, then the firm has not yet received the cash from that revenue. And yet they've bonused their attorneys and paid their attorneys those bonuses with cash that they have not yet brought in the door. And so making sure your internal systems are balancing that focus on collections as well as billable hours is very important to match up the timing of that cash coming in and going out. Don't think about payment as pressure or that you're pushing your client, but it is what keeps the machine running, the machine of your business. So you have to recognize that. And businesses can last a really long time with negative profitability, but they cannot last very long with negative cash flow, consistent negative cash flow. And if you are not reinforcing your payment terms, then you can quickly run into that negative cash flow situation. And it's taken firms down before. So it's a dangerous place to be. So when systems are clear, systems, whether it be systems, as we said at the top about intake and conversion, just bringing business into the firm, systems, people systems, who does what are the roles and responsibilities? Does everybody know what they're tasked with doing? And systems around operations such as collections and billing. When all these systems are clear, chaos across your firm will drop. Decisions will get much easier. And your team is going to grow in confidence because everybody knows that they are doing what they should be doing. And those fires that you used to constantly put out are now not popping up. Things are just running smoother. You're dealing with things immediately as they arise, and everybody knows what they should be doing. And also, when those systems are clear, owners stop being that bottleneck, stop getting everything elevated to them. And the firm starts working for you again as the firm owner. Because when you founded your firm, I'm sure you did it for a number of reasons, but some of those are personal financial reasons. And you had a goal of what you needed to support your life, what you needed to take out of that firm. And when your firm is in a state of chaos, oftentimes a major symptom is that cash flow is constrained. And so you, as the owner, take the hit. You are not getting out of that firm financially what you had expected. And so the firm, in essence, is not working for you. So when these systems are clear, the firm starts working for you again. You can increase owner payouts. And it's not happening because you worked any harder or you had a stroke of good luck, but it's because you designed it intentionally. And so all of this applies to your firm, but there is not a one-size-fits-all solution. I gave a few examples today. I talked at a very high level about these processes, but there's no one-size-fits-all solution. Every area of law practice is different. Every firm culture is different. But the principles are consistent, and you have to work with the custom implementation that works best for you, works best for the people that are inside your firm, for the way you want to deliver client service, and for the market that you're speaking to. So this is about translating these ideas to your firm, your team, and how you want to practice law. So if you have specific questions or next steps, maybe something I said today really resonated with you or hit a nerve and you thought, I need to dig into that deeper. I do need to do the work and get down and work on that, then please reach out. I would be happy to have a clarity call with you. It's a free consultation. We can discuss your firm and explore opportunities to help you improve your firm, to help you make your firm work for you. So I hope that you gained some clarity today. Thank you so much. I look forward to hearing from you. And again, my name is Sarah Justin with Rêve CFO Advisors. Have a great day.